All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe and Day of Judgment. You alone we worship, and to you alone we turn for help and guidance. There is no power and no strength except in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Exalted, and al-Jabbar, the Almighty. Honorable scholars, respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mahdi, and on behalf of Imam al-Mahdi Association of Marja'iyya, I would like to thank you all for joining our annual Muharram program. I would also like to thank everyone joining us live via YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. Like I have announced on the first night, we are unfortunately unable to gather and mourn the events of Karbala in the ways we have done so in the past due to an ongoing pandemic, COVID-19. We begin first by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to gather and for giving us yet another golden opportunity to take part in these holy nights of Muharram and to gain an understanding and benefit from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. We also want to send our deepest condolences to our awaited savior, the 12th Imam, Imam al-Mahdi. May Allah hasten his return. We hope and we pray that our Imam is pleased with our actions in this holy month, inshallah. The world is waiting for justice, and justice is waiting for Imam al-Mahdi. Today is the night where we remember the heroism, loyalty, courage, and selflessness of al-Fadel al-Abbas alayhi salam. Abbas, who even went thirsty when he went to get water for the camp, didn't dare take even a sip of water. Because how could he, when poor Sukaina and Ali al-Azhar were back at the camps thirsty? When I utter the name Abbas, I feel empowered. When I pray through Abbas, upon me blessings are showered. Abbas, that warrior who over his enemies he towered, the destroyer of the hypocrite, the liars, and the cowards. But the tragedy that befell him truly breaks the heart of every man, woman, and child. Our program will start with the recitation of verses from the Holy Quran by Brother Qarar al-Ammuri. Please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
نور قلوبكم بذكر الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ثانيا على حب فاطمة الزهراء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ثالثا بأعلى أصواتكم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قوارير من فضة قدروها تقديرا ويسقون فيها كأسا كان مزاجها زنجبيلا عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك القرآن تنزيلا فاصبر لحكم ربك ولا تطع منهم آثما أو كفورا واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة تسبقة الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
Ahsan, Brother Qurab. Next up, we have Brother al-Abbas with a brief speech about al-Hurr. Please welcome him with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is al-Abbas. I am 14 and I'm from North Carolina. My topic is about al-Hurr. He was a companion of Imam Hussain. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al-Hurr, a transformation from enemy to companion. In one account from al-Tabari, it is narrated that al-Hurr was a descendant of al-Yabu'i Riyahi from the tribe of Banu Tamim located in Kufa. Al-Hurr was a general of the appointed governor of Kufa. Ubayd Allah ibn Ziyad issued the command to guard all entrances and exits to Kufa in order to intercept al-Hussein for an oath of allegiance to Yazid ibn Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan of the Umayyad dynasty. During the journey to Karbala, Imam Hussain was on the way from Sharaf until afternoon when they saw Hurr's army proceeding towards their direction. They came and stood in the heat of Zuhr, facing Imam and his companions. Imam told his companions to serve water to them and to their horses too. They filled the bowls and cups with water and served to the horses. Only when the horse drank 3 to 4 times did they take it away from it and gave it to the other one. They did this until they had fed all of the horses. Hurr then told the Imam, "If you refuse to go to Karbala, take a direction which does not go to Kufa nor Medina. While this being a compromise between us, then I shall write a letter to the commander, and you write to Yazid or Ubaydullah, and Allah should bring forth fairness, so that I may not be entangled in your matter." Hurr, who was traveling alongside the Imam, came up to him and said, "O Hussein, I request you in the name of Allah to think about your life, and I am convinced that if you fight, you shall surely die." Imam replied, "Do you make me fear death? Could a worse disaster befall you than killing me? I repeat the words of a brother of Aus, in which he had said to his cousin, when he intended assisting the Prophet of Allah. His cousin feared for him and said, "Where are you going? For you shall be killed." To which he answered, "I will depart, for there is no shame in death for a young man, wherever he intends to do what is right, and he strives like a Muslim, who has soothed righteous men through the sacrifice of his life, who have scattered the accursed and opposed the criminals. If I live, I will not regret what I have done, and if I die, I will not suffer. Let it be enough for you to live in humiliation and be reviled." On the 9th of Muharram, Hurr could hear the cry of al-Atash. Thirst, the children of Hussein's camp were crying for water. Hurr was very restless. He kept on thinking what a grave mistake he made by bringing Hussein to Karbala. Hurr watched as gallons of water was poured on the horses. He thought that so much water was for the animals, while the children of Bibi Fatima are crying for a few drops of water. There's so much water for the animals, but none for the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Hurr could not take it anymore. He called his son and said, "My son, I have made a terrible mistake. I have brought such a pious and truthful man here to be killed. Please, my son, quickly take me to Imam Hussain. I want to beg him to forgive me before it is too late. I'm ashamed of myself. Will Hussein forgive me? How can I face him?" Hurr and his son mounted their horses and went towards the camp of Hussein. Abbas, who was guarding the tents, saw the two men coming towards him. He thought they were coming to attack them. He pulled out his sword and warned them to stop where they were. Imam Hussain also saw the two men. "Abbas, my brother Abbas, put your sword back. Those two men are not coming to fight us. That is Hurr, my special guest. I've been waiting for him. Let us go and receive them, Abbas." Imam Hussain and Abbas went to meet Hurr. "Welcome, Hurr, welcome. I have been waiting for you." Hurr asked him, "May I be your ransom, son of the Apostle of God?" He said, "By God, if I had known what they would finish up by doing, what I am seeing them do to you, I would not have been committed what I have committed against you. I repent to God for what I have done. Will you accept my repentance?" Imam Hussain took Hurr in his arms and said, "Hurr, my friend, I forgive you. I assure you that my grandfather, my father, and my mother have also forgiven you. Come with me, Hurr." Soon after that, Yazid's soldiers blew the trumpets of war. Hurr asked Imam Hussain for permission to go and fight the enemies of Islam. Imam Hussain himself mounted Hurr on his horse. Hurr went to the battlefield. He was a strong and brave man. He fought the battle gallantly and sent many of Yazid's men to hell. Eventually, Hurr came off his horse. Severely wounded, he called for Hussein. Master, come quickly. Let me see you for the last time." Hurr was taking his last breaths. Imam Hussain placed Hurr's head on his lap. "Go, Hurr, go. My grandfather is waiting for you. My father and mother are waiting for you. We will be joining you soon in heaven. Fi aman Allah, Hurr." Imam Hussain, with tears in his eyes, prayed to Allah, "Ya Allah, please forgive Hurr and grant him a place in heaven." Hurr died in Imam Hussein's lap. Hurr, the name means to be freed. Hurr lived up to his name. He freed himself from the fire of hell before it was too late. Hurr taught us a lesson in which he had a choice between hell and heaven. He had a choice between glory in this world or happiness in the world hereafter. It is never too late to ask for forgiveness. Hurr chose heaven. He chose happiness in the world hereafter. In our lifetime, there are many times when we have to make a choice between good and bad, between halal and haram, between right and wrong, between hell and heaven. Happiness in this world is short-lived, while the happiness in the world hereafter is everlasting. Thank you. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Thank you for your participation, al-Abbas. You showed us all it takes is a decision. Next up, we have Brother Muhammad Rida giving a brief speech about bravery and loyalty. Please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثانيا على حب الحسين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أخيه أبا الفضل العباس وعلى أخته زينب عليه السلام. قال الله في محكم كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Among the believers are men who were true to their promise with Allah. Some of them have fulfilled their vow by martyrdom, and some are still awaiting, and they have not changed in the least. Surah Al-Ahzab, ayah 23. This ayah is a very important ayah, and it relates a lot to our topic today. After all what from Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he recited this ayah. This ayah's background goes all the way back to the Battle of Uhud. After the Battle of Uhud, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet's uncle, was found dead after the battle. Hind from the opposite team, she sent a black man named Wahshi to kill Hamza with a spear. Now they did it this way because whoever came near Hamza was found dead. Hamza was a very brave man. Hamza was very, very talented with the sword. When he had a sword in his hand, no one would get past him. He was very strong to the point where him and Imam Ali alayhi salam, they fought back to back near each other. And when they did that, there was no getting past them, no matter how big the army was. Wahshi was Hind's servant, and when he had a spear in his hand, he would never miss his target. He was always very accurate. They used to use him for entertainment purposes. He would never miss, like I said. Therefore, Hind sent him to battle to kill Hamza from far. He threw a spear at Hamza, and it ended up right in Hamza's chest. He was found dead after the battle. The Prophet looked at Amir al-Mu'mineen and said this ayah. Now let's analyze this ayah. In the beginning it says, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. From the believers are men that promised Allah. These believers are in this case the men of the Prophet. What did they promise? They promised to stand by the Prophet and die as martyrs. The next part, it says, فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. Part of them already made that promise true. This is referring to Hamza's death. It said that Hamza already died as a martyr, so he has fulfilled his promise. And the last part of the ayah, it says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. No, the second to last part of the ayah, it says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. And part of them are waiting. In this case, it's referring to Imam Ali alayhi salam and the rest of the prophets that haven't died, the rest of the companions of the Prophet that haven't died as martyrs yet. They are waiting to fulfill this promise. They still haven't fulfilled this promise. And the last part of the verse, وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. They never regretted or changed their mind in any way. They stayed true to their promise with Allah, and they knew they were going to get something greater in the hereafter. They wanted to die as martyrs in this world, because this world meant nothing to them. The hereafter is what meant something to them. They stayed true to their promise with Allah, and they never changed their mind. Now, as many of you know, tonight is the 7th night of Muharram, which is known to be al-Fadel al-Abbas' night. Al-Fadel al-Abbas is known for a lot of different traits, but the main trait he is known for is bravery. There are many different types of bravery. When someone says bravery, they could be referring to many different things. Before we see deep into this, first let's define bravery. Bravery means the courage to do some sort of behavior, some sort of courageous behavior, whether it is mentally or physically. Now, saying that brings me to my point, which is there are two major types of bravery. There's mental bravery and physical bravery. Let's look deep into this. Before we look deep into this, I want Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad that could be heard from Abu al-Fadel al-Abbas and Karbala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Now the first branch bravery, or the first general idea of bravery, is physical bravery. Physical bravery is what we know as sacrifice or courageous acts. For example, when a building is on fire, it's bursted into flames. The courageous or brave act is to go into that building, and if someone's trapped inside, the brave act is to go into that building and save that person that's trapped inside. Now, bravery is very hard. This type of bravery, physical bravery, can be very hard because it requires risking your life. And it's very hard to do something courageous sometimes. Of course, depending on how us humans think, different acts could be considered hard, could be considered bravery. We are humans, and we think differently, and we have different personalities. So of course, our considerations and the things we consider hard are going to be different, and that's totally normal because we're humans. We're not perfect. Now imagine with me for a second. Okay, you're on spring break, and all you see is a car rushing past you straight into a tree. What would you do? In this case, like seriously, what would you do? Two teenagers from DeWitt High School named Cody Decker and Luke Vagan, they found themselves in this situation on April 4th, 2012 in Florida. They were on spring break. Literally without hesitation, one of the teenagers, Luke, called 911, and Cody, the other teenager, raced to go help the people inside. They ran 1/4 of a mile just in order to help people. Now, of course, there were a lot of cars passing by, and they stopped by, but they didn't do what these two teenagers did. They found a man and a woman trapped inside, screaming for their lives. Cody broke the driver's side window and had to bend the door frame just in order to get the couple to safety. The boys dragged the couple to safety, and they were found safe. Jessica Lopez, which is the daughter of the woman in the car crash, she said, if it wasn't for them, we'd be attending 2 funerals right now. Now, I agree with this. This is probably true, because if it wasn't for these two brave teenagers, the cops would have been here late. They would have been there late. The people would have burned before help would have been there. Now, like I said, others saw the crash and they didn't do anything. But these 17-year-old boys responded with good judgment. They responded with immediate action, which is required in this situation. Now, I thought to myself, I'm wondering, if I was in this situation, what would I do? I'm not brave enough to go help someone that's trapped inside of them in the middle of a fire. I would have just called 911 and just waited for help. This is just me. Again, like I said, us humans aren't perfect, and we consider different things hard. With physical bravery comes sacrifice and altruism, and it takes risking a life for this physical bravery. You can't just claim to be brave and you're not showing it. You also have to have some type of thinking into it. You can't just throw yourself in the middle of a burning building and for no reason and just claim you're brave just because you threw yourself into a burning building and came out alive. Of course, you need a reason to jump into that building. Now, this brings me to my other point, which is mental bravery. Mental bravery has many branches to it, and all these require intellect, unlike physical bravery. It also requires intellect, but not as much intellect. Now, before we dive deep into mental bravery, because it is a very, very big topic, let me get a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, my first point, the first branch of mental bravery is patience. Now, I was doing research and I thought to myself, how can patience be considered bravery? Again, earlier I said bravery is courageous acts, something that you consider to be courageous. And we can all say that patience also requires courage and is also a very courageous act. Now, using common sense, we can see that both of these points require courage. They require the same thing. So we can draw from common sense that patience is considered bravery. Patience is very important. It's a very important rule that we need in our lives. Patience is one of the hardest things, yet it is very important in our lives. It's important because it is said that it is mentioned 90 times in the Holy Quran. When something is mentioned that many times, someone is trying to tell us something. In this case, Allah is trying to tell us that patience is very important, or at least somewhat important. Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 156 and 157, وَبَشِّرَ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَّبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Who, when a calamity befalls them by showing perseverance, say, verily we belong to Allah, and certainly unto Him we shall return. Those are the ones who are blessings and mercy from their Lord, and they are the ones that are guided. This ayah is talking about the patient people. It says when a pandemic or a problem, or in this case it says calamity, which is pandemic or a problem, befalls on them, they say nothing but inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, or la ilaha illallah. They are not just patient to the good things, they are patient when a calamity falls on them, like it states over here. When a pandemic or a musibah falls on them, they have the trust in Allah that they know Allah is gonna save them. They keep matters into Allah's hands because they know Allah is gonna take care of them and Allah is not gonna leave them. Now we should really put this point into use because it's very important in our lives, especially in times like this. We're in a very dangerous pandemic, COVID-19, and it causes death. It's very dangerous. Let's keep our faith strong in Allah and Ahlul Bayt, and they will get us through this. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, "As-sabru ra'sul iman." Patience is the peak of faith. Let us wait patiently for Allah to take matters into His hands. Allah is testing us, and like always, we want to pass a test. We don't want to fail a test in school. So of course, we don't want to fail a test that Allah has put upon us. So let's wait patiently and pass this test together as Shia. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, "As-sabru ghafar wal-ajalu khatar." Patience is a victory, and haste or impatience is a danger. Let's stay away from the danger of failing this test because, like I said, we would never want to fail a test in school. Of course, we want to pass every single test. And this is a different type of test. This is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a very important test. We have to be really careful and wait patiently. This is how we pass this test.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Now the second branch of mental bravery is sacrifice. Sacrifice is a very big branch of mental bravery and requires a whole nother lecture. So I'm not going to go very deep into it. Allah says in Surah As-Saffat, ayah 101 and 102, فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى قَالَ يَا أَبَتِ افْعَلْ مَا تُؤْمَرُ سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الصَّابِرِينَ. صدق الله العلي العظيم. So we gave him the glad tidings of a forbearing boy. And when the son reached the age of working with him, he said, "O my son, verily I see in a dream that I shall sacrifice you. Now see what is your view." He said, "O my father, do what you are commanded. You will find me Allah willing of the patient ones." The story behind this ayah is a very beautiful story that you can pull a lesson from. But before that, let me get Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was sleeping one night and he dreamed. In that dream, someone told him to sacrifice his son. He woke up startled and scared. He didn't know what to do. He thought this dream was just a dream from Shaitan. The second night, the same thing happened. He thought it was the Shaitan again. He woke up scared again and he just thought it was the Shaitan, so he went back to sleep. When it was the third night, he was dreaming the same thing. He woke up and thought to himself, Allah is trying to tell me something. He went to his son Ismail and let him know what he saw in the dream. In this ayah, it states that Ismail replied with a reply that can make his dad's life easier on him. He said, "Do what you are ordered, and may Allah be with us. I will be patient and do what you are ordered, just in the sake of Allah." Listen to how the Prophet trusts Allah, and he knows Allah would never put something bad on him. Everything that comes from Allah is something good. He trusts Allah, that trust. So he just put matters into Allah's hands. So they went on, and Ismail ordered his dad, Ibrahim alayhi salam, to blindfold him and tie him to make it easier. Shaitan was trying to make it harder on him and kept telling him not to do it. He kept appearing in random places and told him not to do it. Ibrahim alayhi salam did not listen because his son Ismail inspired him, and he knew that his son Ismail, his words were true, that Allah would never put something bad upon them. So he blindfolded him and put the knife on his neck. Ibrahim closed his eyes and tried to cut with it. It wouldn't cut. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam opened his eyes and saw a sheep in front of him, ready to be slaughtered. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Again, he passed the test that Allah has put on him. He never failed it. Of course, like I said, we don't want to fail a test of Allah. They wanted to sacrifice anything just in the sake of Allah. This is true sacrifice. This is bravery at its finest. This is the reason why when you go to Hajj, you slaughter a sheep. Now, of course, us youth at this age, we won't be able to sacrifice like that because we're still young. We're very young. One of the ways to sacrifice at this age is to sacrifice our time of fun and games and put that time to use for volunteering at a place that helps orphans or helps people in need. The least we could do is work over there or volunteer over there 5 hours a week. That's not very much. 5 hours a week, 1 hour a day for 5 days, or you could piece it up based on your liking. That's all you have to do, and that will be considered a great sacrifice with Allah, especially at this age. We really can't do what Ibrahim alayhi salam did, because that's a very big task, and Allah would never put something that big on us. So the least we could do is volunteer at a place or help people in need for just not very long. You don't have to do it for very long. And your prize by Allah will be great. There are many other ways to practice bravery, but I will end at this point, and it's a very important point. Before I end, let me get Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. My last point, or the last branch of mental bravery, is kalam al-ghayb, or anger management. This is a very important point we have to practice. Anger management, or kalam al-ghayb, is called this because it was named after Imam Kalam alayhi salam. He used it when the people of the community that hated him used to talk bad about him. Of course, he didn't want to release his anger and kill every single one of them, so he just held it in. The main reason why he controlled it is because Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, "Al-ghadabu mahmaqatun liqalbi al-hakim." Anger is such that it destroys the heart of even the wise man. Imam Kalam alayhi salam was known to be a wise man in the community, and he was a leader in the community. Of course, people of the community don't want to be known, don't want to be led by not a wise man. So Imam Kalam alayhi salam wanted to be known as a wise man, and he didn't want to break this rule of anger management. We really need to take this into use. When someone talks trash about us, we can't just attack them out of nowhere. We need to, of course, to have a reason to attack them, but not just someone throwing words at you. Words don't mean anything and shouldn't mean anything to the faithful. We need to control our emotions. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, "Man lam yamlik ghadabahu lam yamlik aqlah." He who doesn't control his anger has no control over his reason or mind. We don't want to lose our reason or our mind. Therefore, we need to control our anger or emotions. Imam Ali alayhi salam and in Ma'arakat al-Khandaq, Umar bin Wadi al-Amari was a very strong fighter. He was on the opposite team of Rasulullah's team. He was a very strong and great fighter. When he had the sword in his hand, he was very talented. He was known in the community, in the Islamic world. He went to the Prophet's army. He's the only one person that got past the Prophet's army, or not past, to the Prophet's army. It was the only one person. He was that talented and that strong. Now he told the Prophet's army, he said, who of you can face me one-on-one and beat me? Since you guys claim that you guys can go to Jannah, who can I kill that can go to Jannah? He was just laughing at them. He wasn't taking them seriously. And then the Prophet ﷺ he asked the Sahaba. He said, which one of you can face this person one-on-one? No one said anything but Imam Ali alayhi salam. He said, me, ya O Rasulullah. And then Rasulullah said, Ijlis ya Ali. And then he said a second time. He said, who of you guys can face this man one-on-one? The Sahaba all sat down, except Imam Ali alayhi salam. He said, me, O Rasulullah. Rasulullah, of course, told him, Ijlis ya Ali. The third time that Rasulullah asked, no one raised their hand, or no one said, I will fight this man one-on-one, except Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then the Prophet had no choice but to send Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali fought an amazing fight. He was on the second day he was gonna kill him. Imam Ali wanted to kill Umar bin al-Amri, but he stopped. He was holding his neck with his hand. He was choking him. He held him for a minute and then he killed him. The Sahaba told the Prophet, look, O Rasulullah, look what this man has done. This act was known to be shameful, to torture a person before death. And then when he asked Imam Ali alayhi salam, why did you do this act? Imam Ali alayhi salam said, I was angry because Umar bin al-Amri, he spit on Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam said, I was angry. I was very angry. So I waited a minute to calm myself down, because if I killed this man, I know my intention would have been to kill this man based on my anger. Imam Ali didn't want to do that. He wanted to do everything just in the sake of Allah. So he calmed himself down until he saw himself very calm, and then he killed him. Everyone understood. Now a question that arises from this. How can we use this? How can we control our anger without losing our minds? Of course, we are no prophet or we are no imam. And it is very hard for us humans to control our anger, especially knowing the people, especially knowing humans. Humans want to talk bad about you in any way and want to make you angry in any way, want to make you act in any way. Now, how can we control this without losing our mind? It is known the best way to control this is with silence. The Prophet ﷺ says, Dawul ghadab bis-samt. Remedy your anger with silence. And also Imam Ali alayhi salam says, As-sukutu ala al-ahmaq afdal jawab. Silence is the best reply to a fool. We can relate to this because only fools talk bad about each other. Us as Muslimin, we should never talk bad about each other, but only the fools talk bad about each other. So we should control this anger with silence. Of course, it here says, As-sukutu ala al-ahmaq afdal jawab. Silence is the best reply to a fool. And this is very true. We don't want to be considered fools. So the best way is to stay silent. Now, what do we get from holding in our anger? We need to use this to be known as wise, of course, like Imam Kalam alayhi salam, but also to get a greater prize with Allah. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Man kaffa ghadabuhu, kaffa Allahu anhu adabuhu." He who curbs his anger, Allah will curb his punishment from him. We don't want to deal with Allah's punishment because Allah's punishment is very severe. So let this punishment be curbed away from us just by a simple task, holding in our anger. We also need to look up to Imam Hussain alayhi salam and al-Abbas and what they did in Karbala. In Karbala, all of these points were practiced. Mental bravery and physical bravery. Let's look at al-Abbas since today this is night. Like I said, he was known for his bravery, mental and physical. For physical bravery, he was the one that protected the flag. He protected the kids, and most importantly, he protected Zainab alayhi salam. That shows physical bravery. He had patience. He saw what was happening to the companions. He had sacrifice. He went into the battlefield knowing death was coming near him, knowing death was the way. And lastly, he had anger management. The enemy was always threatening, but he held his anger in. Before he went to battle, Imam Hussain alayhi salam and Zainab alayhi salam hugged him. He went into battle knowing death was the way and death was coming. I'm not going to go into details. Let's save that for the night or the majlis. After he went away, Imam Hussain alayhi salam said this ayah that I said earlier, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. Among the believers are men who were true to their promise with Allah. Some of them have fulfilled their vow by martyrdom, and some are still awaiting, and they have not changed in the least. The background of the story, like I said, is about Hamza and in the Battle of Uhud. But in this case, Abu Abdullah was referring to the companions and al-Fadel al-Abbas. They gave their lives with no regret. They had no regret in what they're going to sacrifice. They knew they were going to get something bigger, which is heaven in the hereafter. They sacrificed all what they had just in order for Islam. This is why we are here and why we do this every year. We commemorate Karbala and the events that happened in it. A virus will not stop us, Shia, and should not stop us from coming together and commemorating these events. Assalamu ala al-Hussain wa ala Ali ibn al-Hussain wa ala awlad al-Hussain wa ala ashab al-Hussain wa ala akhihi al-Fadel al-Abbas wa ala ukhtihi Zainab wa akhir da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin.
ثانية على حب الزهراء.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsan, brother Qural. Hopefully we could all show some bravery in our life, whether it be in our homes or in the street or in our mental mind. al-Fadel al-Abbas alayhi salam is said to say, I fight for the Imam of truth. I fight on for the grandson of the Holy Prophet. al-Fadel al-Abbas on the day of Ashura, after the enemies cut off his right arm, he would not stop until the very end. His commitment to the cause of Imam Hussain was unwavering. He gave everything for Imam Hussain alayhi salam and did not think twice about it. The pleasure of Allah is all that he thought. Inshallah, brother Muhammad al-Mudaffar can take us to that night, the night al-Fadel al-Abbas was martyred. Please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. والثاني على الحب الحسين.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله. نوروا مجالسكم وعطروا أفواهكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثانيا غفر الله لكم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ثالثا بأعلى أصواتكم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصاب سيدي ومولاي أبا عبد الله الحسين. صلى الله عليك سيدي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين. صلى الله عليك سيدي ومولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. غريب يا All that's left for the rest of these nights is the holy family of Rasulullah. All that's left is Qasim, son of Hassan. All that's left is Akbar, son of Hussain. All that's left is Abdullah, the 6-month-old. All that's left is Aba Abdullah al-Hussain. All that's left is Aba Abdullah al-Hussain. And all that's left is someone dear to Aba Abdullah al-Hussein's heart. All that's left is someone dear to Sayyida Zainab's heart. Please take your hearts to them, someone. On the 10th of Muharram, Sayyida Zainab called out, Ya Hussein. On the 10th of Muharram, Kulthum calls out, Ya Hussein. On the 10th of Muharram, Layla calls out, Ya Hussein. While Aba Abdullah calls out, who? While Aba Abdullah calls out the name of the son of al-Bani. Ask your hajat on this night from al-Bani, huh? While Aba Abdullah calls out, Ya Abbas, oh brother Abbas, because Aba Abdullah never wanted to let Abbas go and fight. All Aba Abdullah has for was, do you hear Sukayn and the children crying? Abbas said yes. Aba Abdullah tells him, go and bring the children water. Why? Because Aba Abdullah and al-Fadel al-Abbas hear the cry. What's the cry? They hear the cry, al-Abash, al-Abash. When Abbas heard the cry, he went towards the river to bring them some water. Now keep in mind, this could be the last time you see Sayyida Zainab and the rest of the family of Rasulullah. When he reached the water, he got some cold water in his hands and he said the famous words. What are these famous words? He says, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Hussein, أوني وبعده لا كنت ينتكوني هذا حسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين الله ما هذا فعال ديني ولا فعال صادق اليقين. What is he saying over here? He says, O soul, after Hussein be banished, and after him neither you are worthy to have existed or to remain existing. This is Hussein drinking the syrup of death, and you dare to drink the cold water. By God, this is not what my faith taught me, nor the actions of the most honest, of the most certain Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He then put the water back into the river, and he filled the water pouch with water to return back and quench the thirst of the thirsty children. On his way back to the tents, a number of enemies gathered by the tree. All of the sudden, they surround al-Fadel al-Abbas. Please take your hearts to Karbala, to the plains of Karbala, and listen to what's going to happen to al-Fadel. All of the sudden, they surround al-Fadel al-Abbas, and they struck the right arm of al-Fadel, and he recites, Wallahi inqata'tum yamini, إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني وعن إمام صادق اليقين نجل النبي الطاهر الأمين. By God, if you cut off my right arm, I will forever defend my religion and defend my faithful Imam, who is the one, who is the son of the pure and honest Prophet Muhammad. What happens next? They cut off his right arm. He puts the sword in his left, huh? Then he tried to hold the sword with his left, and someone came and struck the left arm of al-Fadel al-Abbas. What does he say over here? He says, Ya nafsu la tafshay min al-kuffari وابشري برحمة الجبار مع النبي المصطفى المختار قد قطعوا ببغيهم يساري. O soul, do not be afraid of the disbelievers and be glad to receive the mercy of Almighty. With the Prophet, the master of the righteous ones, they have severed my left arm with their tyranny. So burn them, O Lord, with the heat of the fire of the hell. What happens next? He has no right and no left. What happens now? Umar ibn Sa'ad turned to Harmala and said, go and strike Abbas. Go towards Abbas and strike him. All of a sudden, arrows came striking at Abu al-Fadl and Abbas. As the narration say, there were so much arrows, it was as if it was raining for Abu al-Fadl and Abbas with these arrows. What happens next? All of a sudden, the arrows came striking like it was raining. All of a sudden, one of the arrows strikes the pouch of the water, and the water spills out from the pouch. Another arrow strikes the chest of Abu al-Fadl and Abbas. Another arrow strikes the eyes of Abu al-Fadl and Abbas. What happens at this moment? Abu al-Abbas is helpless. He falls to the ground, but normally when someone falls to the ground, don't they have their hands to catch them? Allahu Akbar. Don't they have their hands to catch them? Abu al-Fadl and Abbas had no hands to catch him. Huh? Abu al-Fadl and Abbas fell directly onto the ground. They came to Abu al-Fadl and Abbas and began to strike him again one after another. They strike him with an iron bar. They strike him with their swords. Sukaina was near Imam Hussain. She tells him, oh uncle, I think that Abu al-Fadl and Abbas has fallen. Abu Abdullah says, oh Sukaina, why is it that you think Abu al-Fadl and Abbas has fallen? She says, oh father, it is because the flag of Abu al-Fadl and Abbas is nowhere to be seen. The narrations mention that Abu al-Fadl and Abbas can't see because there was too much blood in his eyes. Huh? So Abu Abdullah ran towards the body of Abu al-Fadl and Abbas. Abu al-Fadl and Abbas can't see. So what happens over here when Abu Abdullah came near Abbas? Al-Abbas recognized Imam Hussain. From what though? He can't hear and he can't see who the person is. Imam Hussain gave him a kiss, and Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas knew it was his brother Hussain. At that moment, Abu Abdullah took the head of al-Abbas, put it on his lap. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas removed his head from the lap of Abu Abdullah. Again, Abu Abdullah placed Abu al-Fadl's head on his lap. Abu al-Fadl removed his head from the lap of Abu Abdullah. Abu al-Fadl tells Imam Hussain, Abu Abdullah, you place my head on your lap. Who will take your head in a few moments? Abu Abdullah at that moment tried to take Abu al-Fadl's body back to the tent. Abu al-Fadl tells him what? He tells him, oh Abu Abdullah, do not take me to the tent. Why? I promise Sukaina water. What water do I have to take back to her? Moments later, O Shia, the pure soul of Abu al-Fadl and Abbas, left severed on the plains of Karbala. The soul of al-Fadel al-Abbas has now reached his mother Fatima al-Zahra. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا. يا عباس جيب الماي نسكن. يا عباس جيب الماي نسكن. يا عباس جيب الماي نسكن. Beat your chest with me. Oh Abbas, Sukaina waits for you. Oh Abbas, Sukaina asks for you. Oh Abbas, Zainab asks, where are you? Oh Abbas, Hussein calls, I need you. Abu Fadl, Ya Abbas, Abu Fadl, Abu Fadl, Abu Fadl. Oh Abbas, Ali is proud of you. Oh Abbas, your mother cries for you. Oh Abbas, with Zahra are your two hands. Oh Abbas, Abu Fadl, Abu Fadl, Ya Abbas, Abu Fadl. Zainab walks with tears to the river. Zainab walks with her tears to the river. With each tear asking, where's my brother? A voice calls, do not come, oh sister. Oh brother, oh Abbas, Ya Abu Fadl. Abu Fadl, Abu Fadl, do not see the arrow in my eye. Do not see the arrow in my eye. Do not see how on the ground I lie. From you I cannot bear here inside. From you I cannot bear here inside. Your shots I Abbas, Abu Fadl, Abu Fadl, Abu Fadl. Oh, Abbas. This night is Tuesday night. I'm just going to recite a few lines from Dua to us, inshallah. And that's it. We're going to recite in honor of Fatima al-Zahra, the one who on Judgment Day will give the severed hands of al-Fadel Abbas to him. Ya Fatima al-Zahra, Ya bint Muhammad, Ya qurrata ayn al-Rasul, Ya sayyidatana wa mawlatana. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة اشفعي لنا عند الله يا وجيهة يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها اللهم نسألك وندعوك بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعدها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها يا الله. فرج عنا بتعجيل مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان وقضى حوائجنا وحوائج الحاضرين والسامعين وشفاء مرضى المنظورين وكل من أوصانا بالدعاء. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Brother Muhammad. To conclude, we have Mustafa al-Amouri with the Ziyara and Latmiya. Please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
ثانيا على حب الحسين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمتان قتلات ولعن الله أمتان ظلمات ولعن الله أمتان سمعت بذلك فرضيت. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة. لم تنجسك الجاهلية الجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن قلبي لقلبكم سر وأمري لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى أخيه أبا الفضل العباس وعلى أخته زينب. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا عينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.